Hello, and welcome to the Charles Barkley episode of the Hoop Theory Podcast, aka episode 84, which is in honor of him being the best player selected in the 1984 NBA draft that doesn't already have an episode named after them. My name is Logan Wertman, recording this one on the evening of Wednesday, May 15th, and as usual, I am joined by my ambidextrous co-host, Jacob Roth. Jacob, how does it feel to be on the Charles Barkley episode?
Feels good, long time coming. Kind of fitting also because we might be seeing the end of Inside the NBA as we know it. Ernie Johnson has been pretty vocal about not leaving Turner because he does other sports with them. And then depending on the contracts of Kenny the Jet Smith as well as Shaquille O'Neal, we might not see what is the Michael Jordan. No, the Wayne Gretzky, an undisputed GOAT.
Yeah.
Of, honestly, any halftime show of anything, any sport.
Yeah. That's fair.
No, I don't think it's close. The NFL Network guys, like the OG ones, they had a pretty good lineup, but it wasn't ever a halftime show. It was like a before the game started. It was Rich Eisen. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We might be losing that. I'm glad that the Round Mound Rebound. The Round Mound of Rebound finally is getting an episode. Because we talked about it when we was at 34. Pretty highly contested number, if you are not aware. So
taken by somebody else from this very same draft, Hakeem Olajuwon.
Yeah, so I am glad that he finally got an episode, and it should be a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think we've got a lot of it's playoff basketball. There's no such thing as a bad one. But hopefully as the recording continues, the sun will go down more and I will become less angelic looking.
Yeah. So weren't planning on starting with or even talking at all about the TNT thing, but I'm glad you brought that up. Because I saw something today that it's just the comments were filled on a video about it, about TNT, just a clip from the show, and a bunch of people were talking we can't lose this show, basically. And I heard on the Bill Simmons podcast a few days ago now that he had heard through the grapevine that, TNT wasn't going to be on the TV deal for the NBA that, in this next go around. And it was going to be NBC instead, I think. And so is that officially announced now or something?
I don't know if it's official, but there was dates that were thrown out there, and May 15th was a date that Turner had to match or something like that. So that's why the eulogies kind of commenced. And the other thing is because Ernie Johnson does other sports, and he's been kind of vocal about that he won't leave Turner.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is what has caused the outcry. I don't know if it's a done deal yet, but I believe one of the dates that Turner had to match the contract or throw their offer back was today. And you think that once they did that, because of what they have, they would announce it from everywhere. It would be just paraded from just everywhere.
Yeah. That's kind of wild that they're not staying in this. I feel like TNT is the place that it's more iconic for watching basketball on than ESPN
of
is.
All basketball, because TNT, is a huge TBS TNT huge for March Madness. NBA, and I think they should attribute a lot of that to the inside those guys, because I think
almost all of it.
Yeah, because when you're watching a game, the announcers obviously matter a little bit. TNT has a lot of
Kevin Harlan,
the great broadcasters. Ian Eagle, I think, is also a TNT guy for basketball.
I think so.
He's pretty solid. I just think that it's going to be a weird universe. I hope one thing that I really hope is if TNT chooses not to, I really hope that they don't not let anybody out of their contract, so we don't have a year of NBA with no Kevin Harlan. that would suck.
Yeah.
If they
honestly.
and especially because we don't have that many more years of that's how life works. Kevin Harlan's not a spring chicken anymore. We only have a finite number of years left with those types of guys, so losing a year would stink, like really bad. And I don't even know what NBC would throw on for basketball announcers. It would be an interesting wave because we're in a pretty solid era of basketball play-by-play. There's not like there's a couple crews that I'm like I'd rather not, but there's none of them that are like this is bad.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, this is something we've covered on this podcast before. 2 of the 3 GOATs of play-by-play are current NBA announcers. Current, the NBA GOATs, I should say.
Yeah,
because that's all I can really speak on. But Mike Breen and Kevin Harlan, and then Marv Albert is the third guy in there that I'd say. And
then one more thing, as we're talking about announcers, I didn't really ever bring it up in the ep. I want in the finals, if the Celtics are there, I want Gorman to be at a halftime show. For those that don't know who this is the guy that has been the voice of the Celtics since '84.
Wow. That's an iconic year. Also, Celtics won the title that year.
I'm double checking. Anyway, Mike Gorman is like a GOAT. Because local affiliates lose the broadcasting rights after the first round. So we saw Mike Gorman's last game, and it was sad. If you follow me on Twitter, which I don't think anybody from the podcast does, which is cool. There was a lot of I retweet a lot of I will remember you style videos. He began in 81, excuse me.
Oh, and that was another year they won the title.
But no, 81 to 2024 is kind of a wild run.
Yeah, he had all of Larry Bird's career.
A lot of Celtics' entireties of their careers were underneath the soothed tones of Mike Gorman's voice. And he was a little bit of a masshole, which was awesome also.
Oh, yeah.
He was just, he had that, it was just great. But yeah, want to throw that there while we're talking about announcers.
Also, I wanted to just pin on to that maybe, I'm not too familiar with old broadcasts of him, but just since I started being a league pass consumer of the NBA, so the past 4 or 5 years of watching Celtics broadcast with Gorman, he is unlike any other play-by-play announcer I've ever listened to. The way he talks, it sounds like he's not doing play-by-play. As weird as that sounds.
But his voice still makes the moment feel big.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
It feels like just somebody your grandpa who's really.
And you're blind and you're just sitting with your buddy and he's describing what's going on the game.
So casually, but it's so good also. I always loved watching whenever the Celtics and the Nuggets play each other. I always watch the Celtics broadcast and not the Nuggets because I love him reacting to Jokić is one of my favorite things.
Him reacting to other superstars. I think that's when you've done it well is when other teams are I just like how he talks about our guy.
Yeah.
Because he's a homer, but he's not so bad that it's impossible to listen to.
Yeah. But he's just an old basketball soul. And that's he's basically soulmates with Nikola Jokić. You know what I mean?
Speaking of.
He's he calls him a mix between Kevin McHale and Larry Bird, It's the highest compliment you could get from somebody like that.
And I also think that speaking of Jokić, we don't appreciate him enough. Not as a Nuggets fan or as a he is going to go down as one of the greatest interview personalities ever because of if anybody didn't see, yesterday, someone asked why he felt the need to dunk it because he was really kind of putting some punishment on the rim compared to normal Jokić. And he responded with, well, I'm a freak athlete. Which, if anybody's watched Jokić play, is not true. I mean, he's an NBA player, but every team has an athletic guy, and the Nuggets is not Nikola Jokić. Anyway, it just was the way that he was well, kind of a freak athlete, so I just kind of had to show it. I don't remember his exact quote, but I do remember he called himself a freak or a freak athlete, one of the
freak
two.
athlete. Yeah. And then he says, I just decided to show off my athleticism or something like that. And just his dry pan, delivery. Also, like, I saw a lot of comments of that clip being posted on Instagram and stuff. People like taking him seriously, thinking that he was not being sarcastic. And I'm like, how do you not know that he's being sarcastic?
And I guess if you just don't know him, that's just like kind of, and he like laughs. After he says it, he like giggles.
But the way he does it also is like his way when he says something really like sarcastic like that, and he just has this kind of deadpan delivery. Like he'll just kind of shake his head and giggle at himself a little bit. It's not like a super. Again, he doesn't make it obvious that he's joking. Really, You know what I mean? But people who know him obviously know that he is. And what's so great about also like it serves your point of him being like a goat of post game interviews. When you started this whole thing, I didn't know what you were going to bring up. Which because like the last couple of days really it's been full of some great ones, like the Aaron Gordon being asked why he or who he learned or where he learned how to be selfless from, and right as he was asked that question, Jokić walked in the room, and he was like, perfect timing, like it's that guy right there or whatever. And he gave like, pretty long-winded answer about Jokić and how he set his example or whatever. And then Jokić sat down and somebody asked him about what his thoughts were on, Aaron's answer. And he's like, I just bailed him out because he didn't want to talk anymore and he wanted me to come up here instead. So he like threw it over to me.
Another great moment from that game last night. I guess we can kind of go into Nuggets T-Wolves if we want to. I feel like we're kind of naturally going there. But a moment I loved. Jokić had an insane game last night. Yeah. At the end of it, he was dribbling the ball out. And then like KCP like almost yells at him, give me the ball, so he doesn't turn it over. So he doesn't get the shot clock or the shot clock violation turnover. He like runs up to him, was like, give me the ball. It was just it was a cool moment. It was just like a funny.
He had 0 turnovers.
Yeah. I mean, he had 0 turnovers, was having a crazy game, and then KCP to have the wherewithal, or maybe somebody yelled it at him and he's like, wait, and then went and did it, but it was just a cool, dumb little moment at the end of the game that just made me laugh.
Yeah, I love stuff like that also. It just shows how connected the team is, and it also just like, it's funny that was like the graphic that was being shared all today that I've seen, like him and Chris Paul are the only two players now that have had 40, 10, and 0 turnover games in the playoffs. And all of that would have been gone if KCP didn't go and take the ball from him there at the end. Which that's just another thing that I feel like should be done a different way. Like at the end of games, players just like take the turnover a lot of times, where I feel like, why should we expect, like it's just kind of become this basketball courtesy thing where people get mad if the player shoots the ball instead of takes the turnover. And in my opinion, if there's still seconds, if there's still time on the shot clock, why should you be expected to not shoot the ball? Like why don't you just throw it up? You know what I mean?
Even if it's like not even a real attempt, just kind of like.
Yeah, just like instead of taking the turnover, why can't you be allowed, or why can't it be like okay,
not
accepted?
Not a faux pas.
For them to take the shot. That's my opinion, but kind of a stupid little rabbit trail to go down, but.
You know what is a stupid little rabbit trail? If you had to guess what 2 Cavs have 25 points, who would you guess?
Well, Donovan Mitchell's not playing, right?
Yep.
And Jared Allen's also not playing.
Yes.
So, and the obvious answer would be Darius Garland.
Yeah, no, he's not one of them.
And he's not one of them, so Karis LeVert?
Nope, not playing either.
Oh, he's not playing either. Okay, wow. Max Strus?
No.
Marcus Morris, because
I know that Morris is one of them.
Okay, I knew he got off to a good start at the least. The next guy,
your guy.
It's Evan Mobley.
Evan Mobley has 25 points.
All right. I mean, he's capable of that, but
no,
I guess
he's capable. But it's more the like.
I was just avoiding him, to be honest, because I thought he would be more obvious. Honestly, is why I was avoiding him.
And that's fine. And I'm just like seething. Like I would be less shocked for like Sam Morrill to have a 25-point game because he just catches fire from outside and that's like his only job. But like Marcus Morris on like insane efficiency has been just bodying the Celtics tonight. And I just can't. Anyway, let's get
it's
to
a throwback. He's a bucket, back in his prime.
But I would have argued that 5 years ago this would have been surprising.
I don't know about 5.
3?
For Markieff, maybe. Marcus, I would.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Marcus is like, does he still have 0 everything else? Earlier when I saw that he had 14 points in
0
early in the game, he had 0 everything else, basically. That's probably what it is. That's kind of his signature stat line, to be honest. But yeah, I guess diving fully into the Nuggets T-Wolves series, which is going to be definitely, I'd say, like the priority or the main series that we talk about here today, because these are the 2 best teams in the West playing against each other right now. I think this is definitely the Western Conference Finals. And just last time we recorded, we were in a very bleak position with the Nuggets going down 2-0.
At home.
Yeah, and so they were going to Minnesota for Game 3, going to play on the road for Games 3 and 4. And, looking back at that recording and that podcast episode, I was not very, down in the dumps about it. Now that I'm looking at, because I didn't hear a lot of other people's takes, because that was not too long after the game. There was so many people at that point, saying that the Nuggets were going to be getting swept and, basically just writing off the Nuggets completely. I saw a post that day, or the day of Game 3, actually, that was the odds for each team remaining to win the title. And they had the Nuggets at 0.8%. And I said, before Game 3 even started, me looking at that, I was like, I'm saving this, which I did. And I was like, this is going to be something that I'm going to keep a receipt on, because I still feel like we have a pretty good shot, honestly. I know that we're down 2-0, and it's like a position that nobody would ever think to get themselves out of.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just kept having flashbacks in the time between Game 2 and Game 3 of the bubble, which was a much lesser Nuggets team, but had the same kind of core stars, core faces. Them going down 3-1 in back-to-back series and pulling it completely out. From that point on, it's like they're not losing in those. Yeah. And honestly, we ran into a team that was clearly better in the Lakers that year, but that series, like KCP has said multiple times, he thinks that in Game 2, if Mason Plumlee didn't make the mistake that he did and give Anthony Davis the wide open 3 for the game winner, if the Nuggets would have won that game, KCP thinks the Nuggets probably would have won the series. And KCP was on that team, on the Lakers, is important context at that time.
Yes. I guess I didn't even think of my brain thought that, but people might not. They think KCP Nugget because he is now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I guess at the time I was grinning inside, I feel like everybody's counting them out, and that's the perfect place for the Nuggets to be in, to be honest.
Finally to not be the favorite of everybody.
Especially Jamal Murray, and that's what has definitely been happening the last 3 games, which he's honestly not played insanely amazing compared to playoff Murray in the past. But so for this playoff so far, it's definitely been the best little stretch that he's had, especially Game 3. And Game 3, funny enough, the game that a lot of people thought he should have been suspended in, and the people of Minnesota decided that it would be a good idea to just boo the man every time he caught the ball,
which was there's people for example, Denver isn't going to just start booing Ant every time he touches the ball, because you don't want to even be the baby reason.
Yeah.
Jamal is one of those guys.
For sure.
That you don't want to just let's give him mental bulletin board material.
That's that's the environment I think he would prefer to play in, to be honest.
No, he would rather play in just the middle of just a fire, just the worst possible high stress, everyone hates you scenario is where he wants to be, which is wild because he's Canadian. It's double backwards.
Yeah, it's like Jimmy Butler. I feel like is cut from that same cloth, and Ant, like you said. Like, I feel like those guys are just that type of
It's like,
guy.
If there's like the Mamba mentality, I would give that to Jordan. Like, that's the thing that Jordan had, that like he would make stuff up to give himself something to be fired up about. So when you don't make them make something up, you're just being dumb.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
So, and even after that, the boos were much lesser, but the boos have continued. Or in Game 4, they continued. But yeah, so that was just something funny that I wanted to note. But I guess you were a proponent of him being suspended in Game 3.
Because of all of the things combined. Like, and I don't think that there should be like any, but like he got fined $100,000, seemed like a lot, and then Rudy Gobert got fined. It was just weird. I felt like he should have been fined because of the number of things that he did.
You should have been suspended.
Suspended, because the money thing is a suspension. A fine, like a huge fine, and then throwing things on the court not once but twice, all in the same game, just felt like combined. It felt like it was like worthy of one. Do I think it's like bad that he didn't get one? No. Like there's like, I don't know how, I'm trying to figure out how to word this to make it make sense. Was one warranted? Yes, but was it needed? No. Maybe that's the way that like, is it like, oh, it's so fraudulent that the NBA didn't give one? No. But I think that if they would have given one, I would have been like, yeah, that's probably the right call, or that's fair. And I feel like a lot of Nuggets fans, obviously knowing how things went, probably not, but like would have been like, okay, yeah, there was a couple things and he kind of lost his cool. It's one game. He's got to be better. I'd like to think that. But
and I've heard people make the point that like it's inconsistent with the past, like how they've ruled things. Like a lot of times people are like, when people do something that's wrong and suspension worthy, the NBA in the past has just suspended them anyways, even though it's a big crucial moment in a series. You know, it's like the Draymond
kick.
And the 2016 finals.
Was it the kick? No, what did Draymond do?
He kicked LeBron in the crotch and got a technical.
There's just been a lot of kicks. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, so he was not suspended for that. He was suspended because he reached the number of technicals in a season that would require you to be suspended for a game. And they didn't want to halt that. Like they didn't want to just skip over that just because of
that precedent. Yeah.
Just because of the magnitude of the game. Yeah. So and then, you know, the Suns in the playoffs, I can't remember what year that was. I think it was like 05-ish. The Nash hip check against the Spurs, I believe it was. Either the Spurs or Lakers. I think I'm messing this up now. But one of the Titans out in the Western Conference, the Suns looked like they could have won the whole thing that year. And they ended up losing the series because they lost their second and third best players for the next game because there was a fight that broke out after Nash got hip checked by Robert Horry into the scorers table. And then Amari Stoudemire and Sean Marion both got up and left the bench to enter the fight. And they both got a 1-game suspension for the next game. So for those wondering, if you're like a younger person, that is like, we'll just use the Nuggets. Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon are not playing. They're just out of game. Yeah.
That's like the importance of those guys being gone.
Yeah.
Not in role at all, but it's just like that magnitude of,
I would say maybe even more, because I feel like the gap between Nash and Stoudemire was smaller than the gap between Jokić and Murray, to be honest.
Yeah. So like, DiVincenzo and Josh Hart aren't playing. There's only Brunson. I feel like that one's closer because like Nash was definitely above the other two, but it was like once those two, they were pretty similar. It was kind of a toss. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We don't need to dive into like super old, but then we just have younger listeners that might have no idea about that at all.
That context. Yeah. So, but my counter or my thought that I have to that is like, I think it's fine to break precedent when like this is we're in a completely different era of the NBA run by a different person, in Adam Silver, completely different temperament, different, principles than David Stern.
Different philosophy on what he wants the NBA to look like and do.
Yeah.
David Stern was protect the brand of the NBA, and Adam Silver is very much grow it.
Mm-hmm. So we don't really have a track record, really, of calls Adam Silver has made in this lane. In like a comparable situation, if that makes sense. So I don't think it was that wild that he didn't get suspended. And also the big thing that I'd like to push back on or make a point on is I've heard people say that basically this is like one of the biggest what ifs. It could turn out to be one of the biggest what ifs of the postseason of this entire year because like if he gets suspended for game 3, Minnesota, like people are just chalking it up as a win for Minnesota somehow. And that's what I would like to push back on. Did people watch game 3?
But I think,
you know what I mean?
No, I do get what you mean. But the other thing that I would push back to that pushback is Jamal being as hot as he was and as good as he was in game 3. I think kind of like it's almost impossible to compare both ways because of how big Jamal was in that game. I think it kind of like, one, obviously the Nuggets were able to go into it with a different game plan.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they have another body that can do what Jamal did.
Okay, I would like to say that basically, in that game, the Nuggets were firing on all cylinders.
Yes.
As big as people might want to make Jamal's performance out to be, everybody was like just hitting everything that game.
Yes.
I feel like Reggie Jackson in that spot, I feel like it is not far-fetched to believe that Reggie Jackson starting in that spot instead would have been at least a close victory for the Nuggets. Why do we just automatically get the L in that hypothetical?
I'm not saying and that's maybe where I'm not saying that you guys just lose the game, just more I don't know if there's definitely a major change. Also because of the shots that Jamal was making were demoralizing to the highest degree. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just another bucket. It was what do we do better? How do we handle that better?
Yeah, he was making the epitome of Jamal Murray shots for sure.
Just, if you were to boil down the essence of Jamal Murray, it's just what that game was.
Yeah. And it wasn't even if you look at the numbers, it wasn't that great of a game. Surprisingly, not as good as I thought it was. I remember when the final buzzer went, it was he only had 24 points.
It was the opposite of a quiet 24. It was the loudest 24 in NBA history. It was maybe not NBA history. That's a big claim, but it was just so just every shot was that stings. That one stings too. And then he did it. And then he also did a better job than Reggie Jackson would have of getting Nah into foul trouble, and McDaniels was in foul trouble, which, not that they're offensive juggernauts for the T-Wolves, but they open up a lot for him. So I just think that, Jamal Murray's presence just kind of snowballed into... So, are people wrong for saying it's an automatic Nuggets loss? No, they were last year's champ. You can't ever count them out.
So people are wrong.
Yes,
for saying
to count out the Nuggets is totally wrong. But I also don't think it's fair for the Nuggets fans to assume we were playing so well that it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to be 100% confident, I suppose. I just feel I still feel pretty good about that game, but I get obviously it could have looked very different if Jamal wasn't there. But I guess I just feel saying that it's a big what if or a turning point because we would have been swept basically if Jamal was suspended in game 3, which people are basically counting, chalking that up, at least on Twitter and stuff like that. People say stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm that I just feel you are you're jumping to that conclusion very prematurely. But yeah, I think we are on the same page on that one.
Yeah. You still got more on Nuggets, I'm guessing, right? You got to?
Yeah,
there's one man that needs, I don't even know if Flowers is he needs a greenhouse of
Aaron Gordon?
Yes.
Okay.
Of just flowers. And it's not just because game 3 he was pretty good. And then
game 3 yeah, for sure. Mhm.
He was good. Then game 4, he went absolutely nuclear. Just,
Yes.
Game you're going to not treat me like an NBA player and just sag off me? Okay,
Mhm.
I can do a shooting drill. And then just proceeded to bury the Timberwolves. 27, only missed like one shot or something like that.
Yeah, it was 11 of 12. Mm-hmm.
And then, and the game 5 is what I was even more like, Aaron Gordon's the Nuggets' second best player this playoffs run. And it was because he was like such an energy battery like he always is, but like that steal dunk, it was still a close game. Then he pokes it out and then starts hauling.
Mm-hmm.
And then just yams it down. And it was just like, yeah, this is over. This game's over. The Nuggets might have not even been winning at that point. It was like a close game still. And it just didn't matter. It just was like the Nuggets had sucked whatever life the T-Wolves thought they had out of their lungs. And it was just, man, it was art. Sorry, I'll let you do need to do Nuggets Corner because you've had to endure a week of just silence and pain for people hating on you.
Yeah, but I'm honestly glad that it went this way. I don't think there could be a more satisfying or more like roller coaster thrill ride.
You're feeling something before the finals. You're like, I feel something.
Uh-huh. So, and I'm obviously, I don't know if we said it, but the series right now is 3-2. Denver is up. So we went down 2-0 and rattled off the next 3. So, not guaranteed, obviously, that we pull this one out, but feeling pretty good about it. I don't know if we'll need a game 7.
On your side. I don't know if you'll need a game 7 either.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me, I lean 7 more than them getting it done in 6, only because of how terrible Ant was in game 5. But it's also Ant's atrocities have been mostly because of how good the Nuggets defense has stepped up. And
Christian Braun.
Shout out to you, Michael Malone, for being a loyal listener of the pod. Because everything Logan said, you just kind of did.
Yeah.
Like, Christian Braun also, I was talking to my other buddy that's a Nuggets fan, and I'm like, you guys are going to have to pay Christian Braun, because if he's already here in year 2, he's going to feel like he's like, I could go start somewhere probably. If Case, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean...
In 2 years, is it right? 2 years? Yeah.
Yeah,
2 years from now, you have to approach the bridge. And maybe KCP will be gone or be on his way out, and he'll just fill that spot like he kind of has. But then, like...
Honestly.
I wonder if the future narrative of Nuggets, of the old Nurkic and Jokic, is it the Christian Braun and Peyton Watson? Who does Michael Malone want? He wants Peyton Watson because he loves him like a crazy amount.
He really likes both of them, but I feel like
he like loves Peyton Watson to a crazy degree.
Malone does over Christian Braun?
I think so.
Huh.
Because I also feel like Peyton Watson like plays aren't like, he doesn't try to shoot threes that much in comparison.
I guess I'm not sure. I mean, he might shoot a little bit. I mean, he's not as good of a shooter as Christian Braun is.
So I feel like he doesn't take as many in my brain. Like, just this is not for being an all 82 game viewer. Probably 50 of the Nuggets games. I caught a lot of them, but it was definitely not all 82.
Peyton Watson is basically the backup Aaron Gordon, so he's not really expected to shoot very much.
No, but I feel like Aaron Gordon is like what Michael Malone loves as a player.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like, obviously, he like loves Jokic because of everything that's working and how. But like, I feel like how Tibbs has like the Josh Hart. That's what it is. Josh Hart is to Thibodeau as the Aaron Gordon style of player is to Michael Malone. He just loves that type of guy that like doesn't really have emotion. Just kind of is that guy for your team. Does whatever you need him to. Likes to be in the gritty of things. I don't know. It just feels like.
P-Watt talks a lot more than AG, but yeah. No, I agree with you, though, that I like overall, both CB and P-Watt are like super Michael Malone-esque players, I think. But what I would like to say is, like you were kind of alluding to, like the projected future lineup of the Nuggets, like for keeping people around money-wise, Aaron Gordon is probably the next guy that we're not going to be able to keep around. But I also wouldn't be surprised
if he takes less and sticks around.
That would be the most Mr. Nugget thing of him to do, which he is the current title holder of Mr. Nugget.
And I feel like
our culture guy.
He feels also like, not that they'll like, I don't think that they'll pay him so little it's like doing him dirty. Mm-hmm. But I also just would see him being like, I don't need the extra whatever, or I'll take less a year, but then like they finagle bonuses and numbers around, and he gets paid a healthy amount, but it just won't be a hit on the books necessarily. And I don't know how the difference between the NBA and the NFL and being able to do all that stuff is, because like the Celtics are technically still paying Kevin Garnett, but I don't know how
really.
No, because he deferred like some amount of money, so they pay him like a little bit every year.
Yeah,
but I don't know if that didn't impact their salary cap, or if that's just like
that is how that works. That doesn't affect their salary cap when they do a buyout like that. Anytime you buy out a player, you're not retaining their cap.
And it might not be still. I just know that they were paying Kevin Garnett for a while beyond him playing for the Celtics,
without it counting against their cap. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the projected future of the lineup, like Christian Braun, I feel like is the guy that can easily slide in and take the KCP role. Yep, and P-Watt is the guy that I can see as taking the Aaron Gordon role. The only thing that I feel like would be lost there, unless P-Watt like bulks up a lot, is the ability to just completely bully most foremen, most like wings out there.
No, you need a center, like a true center is the only thing that can like really handle Gordon in the paint.
Or like a real four. Yeah. Which most teams don't have.
Real fours don't exist anymore. It's just centers, pretty much now.
Yeah. But also P-Watt wouldn't be able to be like the backup 5, really, in the playoff rotation, with like Aaron Gordon does for us. He's like, because we use Aaron Gordon. That's also a thing that Michael Malone has listened to me on, is in this series, like we've started in the bench units, just use Aaron Gordon, run the same exact stuff we do with Jokić, but put the ball in Aaron Gordon's hands. Because I
also wonder, he's like permeated. It's like when you're around, you are who you hang around. Aaron Gordon is becoming like an actual freak athlete Jokić.
Yeah, like that answer that we were talking about a little bit ago of that question he was asked about who he learned to be selfless from. Like I get like a lot of teammates. You could probably find a lot of examples of people saying stuff like that about their star player or something.
Teammates, yeah.
But I believe it with him. Like the way that he's just changed as a player ever since he's gotten to Denver is like just playing alongside Jokić. It's like him and Jokić have the best chemistry of anybody on the team, and that is saying something because peanut butter and jelly.
One of the best 2-man games, like statistically in the history of the NBA in terms of efficiency of it.
Is on the team in Murray and Jokić. Yeah.
And also, if that is kind of a segue, if you want to jump into it, is like how the Nuggets just abandoned that. Like in game, they just were kind of like
game 3. It was basically like, which I don't think they abandoned it.
Abandoned's the wrong word, but they were like, we're going to run it in a way that doesn't even. They pretty much neutralized the Rudy Gobert effect that caused havoc in games 1 and 2.
Yeah, so like in the sets that they were running the 2-man game, it was most of the time it was either inverted, where Jokić was the ball handler and Murray was a screener, which throws a wrench into that game plan, the defensive game plan. And then, or they would do that, which was the more common one. They would completely empty out one side of the floor. So they would stack all the rest of the players, all 3 players on the other side of the court, and run the 2-man game on the empty side. So it was like an empty side pick and roll. And in that scenario, Cat just instinctively feels like he does need to hedge and get in front of Murray, because otherwise there's literally it's so much space. There's so much room for Jamal to kind of do what he wants and pull, get to a spot.
Terrifying prospect.
Yeah. So it changes the look of that game plan in that way also. And then on top of that, they just weren't running the 2-man game near as much. I'd say mainly because it was like no matter what we're getting, it's just working. Like it was like the Nuggets couldn't go wrong. It was like we were firing on all cylinders. Anytime we would get like an offensive rebounder or get in a spot, like whoever had the ball in their hand, whether it be Christian Braun or KCP, they would look at Jokić, pass him the ball, and run into like a dribble handoff thing. And they're doing the 2-man game with Jokić and open 3-pointers from people, driving and kicking. It was just like free flow offense. And every shot it felt like was going in. I think we shot like 60% from three that game. I'm pretty sure, which was just a very welcome sight with how we struggled, in the first two games. Also, one of the main key things, that was a difference maker between games 2 and game 3, and this kind of goes back to a conversation we had on the last episode, was the physicality. So game 3 was called like very normally compared to like the way the NBA is typically called the past several years, where a lot of those bumps and little plays there where it was like a lot of physicality, somebody really coming up on somebody and getting in their chili or whatever you want to say. There was a lot more little, ticky-tack fouls
called.
Yeah, which usually you get some of those, And game 2, like, and I'll go back to kind of what I was saying, it was like that was just completely turned off. For there to be a foul on the Wolves, it had to be like violent. You get what I mean?
Both ways. But we've already gone through this with game 2.
Yeah, and that was the other thing I wanted to go back to. Bringing up the number of fouls and things like that, it's kind of a moot point because the Nuggets...
I was more leaning on the free throws shot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The number of fouls, the number of free throws. Like, the Nuggets were not playing in the same way at all. Like, it was... the Wolves were called.
You're saying the gap should have just been way bigger.
Yeah, like an immense amount. If it was like called for like the how physical each team was being, the Wolves were like completely like suffocating, and which you can argue and just be like it was just good defense, which you can.
If you're not getting punished for it, then why stop? Type of philosophy about it.
Yeah, well, I don't blame them for doing it. Yeah,
because they got punished in game 3 and then had to stop.
Yeah, exactly. It was just a stark difference where I agree with most people that, you could look at each one of those plays one by one, and a lot of the things that they let go, it is on the borderline. You could say like, oh, that's just physical defense, play on.
But as a body of all of it was like, that was just a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. And then just a number of like pretty big missed calls going in, the opposite direction of the Nuggets' way, just kind of amounted to like that frustration boiling, like the cat no call that we talked about that got Malone all hot, which also I feel like everybody is confused on. Everybody that I've heard talk about it thinks that either Malone got really mad about the KCP layup where they think that Ant fouled him or something like that, or the other thing that I heard was people just thought that he was getting mad about all of the calls or all of the physicality from the Wolves defensively. But literally the thing he was yelling at the ref or Mark Davis for was Cat shouldering through Jamal Murray, the possession, like one possession prior to that dead ball where he ran out there and was yelling at Mark Davis. So that's what was going on there. But I guess sticking with this officiating thing, going to the Gobert money sign, fined $75K, which was only $25K less than what.
So essentially, throwing towels onto the court is only a $25,000 fine.
Yeah, I'm sure you saw the Chris Finch quote.
Yeah,
where he was like, "I want to see an itemized receipt of these fines." It must have been $10K for the towel and $15K for the heat pad. Or something like that.
Oh, I didn't see that. I just saw I'd like an itemized list of the file. Yeah. I didn't see the rest of it.
Which I think is a funny comment, especially coming from a guy who used to coach Jamal Murray. It's just kind of funny. But the thing I will say about this is I'm not even going to defend this as being fair necessarily, but I think the reason why Gobert got fined so much for the money sign in comparison, why it looks so much more in compared to all Jamal's stuff, is because this is not the first time Gobert has been fined for this same exact thing.
For doing that.
And the NBA historically escalates its fines on repeat offenses.
He's also the guy that I think I remember doing it first that's like, oh yeah, that's for sure a fine. Like in my watching of basketball lifetime, for lack of a better term, I think he's the first guy that I remember doing it and getting fined for it. I'm sure there's been other people that have done it, obviously, but he's like, in recent memory, I think that's like the guy you think that has done it before. At least for me. I don't know if that's everybody, but...
Yeah, I mean, when Jamal did it this series, or in game 2, and people were talking about getting fined or getting suspended, and all that kind of stuff. I remember thinking back to that was what came to mind first for me too, which was Gobert early. Either it was early this season or last. It was some point last season because he was in a Timberwolves uniform for sure.
He was definitely a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Mm-hmm. So it's very recent, and I'm guessing that's why his fine was so much for that little money sign gesture. Also,
Identical.
he did it pretty like not bombastic, but very like front and center.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? More,
Instead
I think
of
more
Murray
than
in a
Jamal's.
timeout, like whatever, and then doing that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Speaking of whatever and officiating, I want Tony Brothers to be arrested.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a very fair opinion.
Actually, I'm going to stop. I think that's all I need to say. Okay. Context. Closeout game, by the way, Celtics won. Probably not by enough for ESPN to be satisfied, or not by, it was too close because why would you let the Cavs stay that close? You didn't win by enough. Or the other side of, they haven't been tested. This core or this group of guys has never been tested in their entire NBA career, so they're not ready to finally be tested.
Wait, somebody said that about the Celtics?
Do you want to know who said this about the Celtics? Udonis Haslem. I wonder why he has a prerogative to say some stupid to say something crazy like that. That they've never been tested.
I mean, he doesn't like them, I guess.
Which is fine. You don't have to.
But yeah, that's just wrong. I don't know what.
And also, Kevin O'Connor. We need to go back to 2 seasons ago.
What did KOC say?
And it's not wrong. But he was like, this is the easiest run to the finals in NBA history.
Oh, but I mean, so far it is.
No, I'm not saying it's
not. It might be. Okay.
But I'm also like, why do we say it now? I want you to live in my hell that I'm living through with your Nuggets someday, where you can't win by enough. If you're never in a close game, then you're not tested. Your all-star can have 14 points, 12 assists, but only score 19, and he gets crucified the next day for being a fraud. But then when Luka goes sleeper and doesn't do crap, and then the Thunder win their game 5, not a peep that Luka's struggling. Ant looks lost in game 5. Not a peep that Ant's lost. But Jason Tatum needs to be Michael Jordan already because he's been doing it for too long. I'm sorry that he has played at a pretty decent level since he got into the league at 19. The man's 25. It's not like he's pushing halfway into it. He's not Paul George. He's not through his prime. We don't need to hold him to this. Yes, you need to hold him to a standard, but it's not like he's had a nothing burger game. Just because he didn't score points, he did so much more. He had like 4 blocks one of the games, and they're like non-factor.
I think it's probably mainly because he hasn't really had like a game you can point to as like his like, I don't know, signature game so far this playoffs. Really?
Okay, this playoffs.
No, not in his career. He's had big playoff performances in his career. The 51-point game 7 last year,
and it just makes me mad that they like forget. They're like, he's never done anything in the playoffs.
No, yeah, he definitely has. He's had some duds too, but this year it's been very like kind of.
There's not been a low and not been a high. I would argue. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he hasn't scored as many points, but then when you have the team that's around him.
Yeah, they're just a wrecking ball of a unit.
He doesn't have to force anything. He's not Ant, where if like things are going poorly, because I'm sure that if we get into the Eastern Conference, we got in the Eastern Conference Finals, if we're lucky enough to get to the finals, if there's like just things are not working, Jason Tatum will start to just be like, okay, I need to just start forcing things.
Yeah, against the Nuggets.
And also, I would double argue that there has not been a team that Jason Tatum has had the opportunity to try to force things. Because of the way that teams have played him and the guys that he's been up against, it's better to have Jalen Brown go like, oh yeah, I'm going to go feast on Donovan Mitchell defense. Like, there's so many other people, or Darius, or whoever it was at the time.
Max Strus.
Or Max Strus. Like, Jason Tatum has not been the guy that it makes the most sense to try to force
because they put Okoro on him. Yeah.
Yes, which is
Mm-hmm. And
fun
George
fact,
Niang and
in terms of like at their role, Okoro is like the best Cav in their role as a role player, defensive, go lock down their best offensive option.
He's the best perimeter defender on the team. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it just had me. I went on a big rant, but that's been boiling up ever. So the same way that you've been boiling up to gush about your Nuggets, this has been irritating me. It's been since game 2 that the Celtics lost when the Cavs shot really well, and it's whatever. But like, I just don't want to be in this world anymore. We can't win by enough. We can't lose because we're that much better than everyone. And then also it hurts even more. For some reason, we were gushing about TNT. Get Draymond Green off my screen. Stop including him on anything.
What did he say about the Celtics? I only saw his comments on the Nuggets games.
No, it's just I just don't want him to be. He doesn't know ball. For being a high IQ guy, it just irritates me. He said that he could play defense on Jokic better than Gobert right now. Do you think that's true?
Did he say that? I feel like you could probably gather that from what he was saying, but did he actually say that?
I don't have the verbatim quote, but that is what he said. Charles Barkley had to be like, don't say that. You should stop. I don't know about that there, Draymond.
I mean, I don't think it's insane. Like, he should feel that way. I guess I don't even know why.
It felt like a Gilbert Arenas podcast take to be on Inside the NBA.
I totally disagree with that. But Draymond Green, of the number of people who can confidently say something like that, Draymond Green is on that very short list.
Last night,
we've seen Draymond Green guard Jokic as good as Gobert has in the past.
Yes, last night, Draymond was not doing anything better. Jokic was so deep into his bag.
Don't get me wrong. I agree with you. I agree with you. But I'm saying that Draymond, as a fierce competitor, like, should
feel that way.
He should feel. I would be surprised if he did.
Okay. Also, speaking of fierce competitors, we'll get to the Knicks later because I love the persona that is Dante DiVincenzo, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, Dante DiVincenzo, the Nova boys.
Dude,
they need to get Mikal Bridges also on the Knicks.
It'd be bad, but I want him to. It wouldn't be good.
It'd be bad. What do you mean?
There's only so far that just like collecting the Villanova championship Infinity Stones can take you.
Mikal Bridges would be like their second best player.
No, I'm not saying that Mikal. I just feel like you could get some, like what you would have to do to go get him, to trade for him, I feel like would make your team worse.
With how the Nets have coveted him, yeah, I would say so. But just in a vacuum, if they could trade off of like
Julius Randle,
that could actually maybe work. And then put OG at the 4, and then you got a team. Yeah,
but then
DiVincenzo's your 6th man,
and then you just get bullied by
who? OG Anunoby. Who's bullying OG Anunoby at the 4?
That's true.
Aaron Gordon's not even doing that.
Yeah.
OG Anunoby can play small ball 5.
I haven't even thought about this enough. This actually might be like proper team building, like to go do that. Like it's funny and also what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, they could, but I mean, it's just would the Nets take Julius Randle? But then there could be somebody else who would want Julius Randle, and there could be a 3-team trade going on there.
I also feel like that they could use Julius Randle as bait to go get like a superstar that wants out.
A superstar,
example,
yeah.
Like if KD's like, I don't want to be a Sun anymore, send me somewhere else, or I'm not playing. And then the Suns would have to be like, we'll take Julius Randle and a couple picks. We can't just not have KD as an asset.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Anyway.
Yeah. Sure.
That was a very long... It's kind of a trademark of the Hoop Theory podcast, that like little rabbit hole thing. I apologize to everyone that wanted Nuggets talk, but man, these refs are ticking me off.
Yeah. It's understandable for sure.
Do you think Tony Brothers is like a dwarf, and if you shave his eyebrows, he feels dishonor?
It might be that way. It might be, like James Harden with his beard, or Anthony Davis with his unibrow. Tony Brothers with his just bushies. You know, he's got bushies on his forehead.
Oh man.
But yeah, I guess going back to Nuggets Wolves, just trying to wrap that up, I guess, a little bit. Jokić, I mean, we've talked about him a little bit this episode, but he put up 47 and 13 in that game, game 5. And the past 3 games now, he's been back to his normal self. And, you know, going back to that parallel I made about the reminder I had after game 2 of the Nuggets being down 3-1 in the bubble against the Jazz and then the Clippers the next round, which, by the way, is the only time that's ever happened in NBA history where a team has come back from a 3-1 deficit twice in a row. It was actually the 11th and 12th, or it was either the 11th and 12th or the 12th and 13th times that a team has ever come back from a 3-1 deficit, just in general, which is pretty wild. And they did it back-to-back playoff series. But, you know, the reminder I had of that series, the first one in particular against the Jazz, which, you know, did have Rudy Gobert playing for that team as well. I believe he won Defensive Player of the Year that year also. It's a pretty good bet, at least. But that was probably, you know, most Nuggets fans will tell you that was probably Jokic's worst playoff series of his career, mainly because of those first 4 games. So, you know, what put them in the 3-1 deficit hole. And this series, I thought it was very reminiscent of that, you know, having the 2-0 hole, those first 2 games, even though Jokić put up big numbers in game 1, it was like a very, you know, lots of turnovers, very kind of lazily put together Jokić performance. And then game 2 was just even worse version of that, where he kind of gave up pretty early on. And then in between games 2 and game 3, something happened that I think might have been a catalyst for change in the Nuggets locker room. And that was him getting awarded his 3rd MVP, which I don't think he cares too much about that award in particular, but I think the kind of like the narrative or like what people say, sometimes Jokić does care about, or that, you know, that kind of motivates him a little bit. And one thing that I found very odd, which I'm sure you saw too, was Shaq like saying straight to Jokic's face on the broadcast, you know, during
vice president of the big man committee, Shea should have won MVP. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
During the, you know, ceremony basically for the MVP trophy, Michael Jordan Award.
I've never tried a Shaq impression. I'm actually okay with that. It wasn't good, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. It's kind of like my last episode, my Danny DeVito. I honestly, after I did it, I was like, that wasn't like, you know, a dead ringer or anything, but I don't feel cringy about that one. That actually
there's also that weird thing that like in your head, it sounds like, in your brain, like what you hear sounds way different than what you actually send out to the world. And so maybe that Shaq was better in here than it was out there.
Yeah,
but
we'll have to see on that one. But yeah, it was during the award ceremony for that MVP award. While they're interviewing him, Shaq just said straight to Jokic's face in the midst of his question. It didn't apply at all to the question that Shaq was asking, but he just decided to throw in that he thought that the voters got it wrong. Jokić shouldn't have won the MVP award, and it should have been given to Shea, which I think is extra funny that Shaq doesn't even have a vote on, you know, the award. It's just funny that not even a voter, like saying that he feels like he felt the need to put his, you know, 2 cents in. It's just, yeah, I thought that was weird. Jokić handled it like perfectly.
Jokić, you would expect him to.
Yeah, just kind of laughing it off.
Almost ignore it. Like just borderline like, haha, and that was it. That was
yeah. But honestly, I think that I don't know if that motivated him a little bit or not.
No, I'm also wondering if there's going to be like at the end of the finals, like Jokić will be on there for Finals MVP. Be like, how about that SGA MVP, Shaq?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, you could definitely say something like that.
Just some sort of comment like that after, like if they win it all, it's all said and done. If like he's on Inside NBA, he goes, yep, that. How about that MVP for Shea? But then also, I don't know if Jokić would, because of the like that's like kind of throwing shade at Shea. And that's not what Jokić would mean by it at all. It would literally just to be like, Shaq, you are a crazy human. Don't do that again.
I think Jokic would only do that if it was if the other player was somebody he was very, very close with.
Oh, if it would have been like Luka.
Luka. That's a perfect, wow. I don't know why I was about to say Bogdanovic. I was trying to imagine a world where he would have been an MVP candidate. But Luka is a perfect example because he actually literally is an MVP candidate and he's one of Jokic's best friends in the league. So that works perfectly. So yeah, if that were the case, then I feel like we could get Jokic kind of saying something like that, for sure. But I guess the other things, like just examining what flipped between games 2 and game 3, I think we have covered most of them. But like other things that I had noticed was on top of just like the physicality of the game, it also just felt like maybe the Wolves got a little bit relaxed, which, you know, is just kind of expected when you go
a team that hasn't done it. Mm-hmm. You're up 2-0. You haven't been in this situation, and it's against the Nuggets. So it's like that should make you feel mentally like you're even less likely to go crazy, but you're even more likely to just kind of be like, oh, we got this. We beat them that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. It's like your boogeyman almost. Like, who else would be the T-Wolves boogeyman? It would be Big Honey.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to take a break here really quick. All right, and welcome back. We are going to finish this out talking about the Nuggets-Wolves series, and then we'll move on to the rest of the playoffs. And also, after all of the awards from the regular season have been given out, we're going to talk about at least one of them this episode before we get out of here. But yeah, this Nuggets-Wolves series, one thing from Game 5 that I've seen kind of escalate a lot is, you know, after Jokic put on just one of the best performances of his career in the postseason against the Defensive Player of the Year, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, tied for the, you know, it's a 3-way tie for the most ever. You know, and Jokic being one of 9 players now to have 3 MVP awards, people basically just clowning on Gobert. And I just feel like you kind of said, Draymond wasn't going to, you know, do anything different. Like, there's not much anybody could do with Jokic in Game 5.
Especially that he was in a bag that I don't even think we knew he possessed. Because it wasn't like...
I would push back very heavily on that, but...
No, I was saying from possession to possession, the way that it was... It felt different. Like, because he like overpowered Gobert one possession and then went into the famous Jokic bag of no dribbling post moves.
Yeah, he'll spin you to death. Yeah.
Like a finesse one, and it just was like, and no matter who they threw on him, there was never any slowing down the only slowing down is when Michael Malone made him sit on the bench. That was like the only slowing down of Jokic possible.
Yeah. I would say that we've had lots of stretches of, I mean, that happened a couple times last year in the postseason. It happened, I think, in 2020 in the bubble.
I think
the
to
Lakers.
Me, it's because of like who he did it to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Against Anthony Davis and against
Dwight
Howard.
Which is the next best at it. Yeah. I don't know. It just felt, I think it's the who and the more supporting cast. Because like, it's not like the Lakers have not been built to beat the Nuggets. That's all the Timberwolves are designed to do. And the fact that he was like, I'm just going to break everything you thought would work is what I think was something that I don't like, because we haven't seen a team build to beat the Nuggets. This is the first, and that's what made it so crazy to me.
But
and then,
I just feel like him scoring one. I feel like most Nuggets fans, like big Nuggets fans, I guess, weren't surprised, because that's been, I feel like, a thing established in Nuggets world at least for a while, that Jokic in one-on-one coverage against Rudy Gobert is a good possession. Like, Jokic is going to score more often than not.
And I'm not saying it was the surprise. But it wasn't just the Gobert. It was just everything. It was no matter what look they threw at him, whether it was Cat on him primarily with Gobert helping at the rim, it wasn't a surprise. It was just like the level of ease. It looked like he was playing the Hornets, and it was the best defense in basketball.
Yeah, that
like there's no lit like and this is fine if the answer is no. There's not a single ounce of you that was like, well, that was kind of crazy how easy that was for him.
I mean, not really.
Oh,
I
and
feel
that's fine. Just
you could
to me,
maybe you could argue this was tied with that like level, but I'd say that I've felt this same feeling watching Jokic multiple times. Like the feeling that you're describing, like I feel I'm very used to that. Is what I'm trying to say. That I feel like he's definitely shown this before that he can. It's like no matter what you do or who's guarding him, Jokic is going to just score like he's being played against by a 7th grade basketball team.
Yeah, no, it was just I don't know if I've ever like felt that level. Obviously, there's words like Jokic is the best player on the court and it's not close, but like never to the extent of like this is the best thing that the NBA could assemble to handle that.
Yeah,
and it looks pointless.
I mean,
it's like that like scene in the Henry Cavill Superman movies where like the U.S. military like builds this box and puts him in handcuffs and does all these things, and then he just looks through the double-sided glass at them, and he's not supposed to be able to see them, and just separates his hands.
That's a very good analogy. Yeah, that was a good. Yeah,
that's how that felt, and I know it was there, but I just don't think that I expected it in that. No, like this is literally the best thing the NBA could do.
Yeah,
like. The only other replacement is like healthy, athletic. I'm going to say Robert Williams. Shout out a healthy Robert Williams instead of Cat defensively in terms of the guy on Jokic directly.
Okay.
But what else are we going to do as the NBA world to stop that? We want Rudy Gobert under the rim. There's not another human being we want.
Yeah, and they're not even doing that anymore. they just in Game 5 they completely switched their game plan. Putting Gobert on Jokic, trying to make him a scorer, just make him, play one-on-one. And it's just...
Honestly, weirdly enough, it felt like Cat was the best answer for Jokic. That there wasn't an answer, but it felt like Cat did the best. As weird and dumb... Because it also felt like Jokic also, when it was Cat, didn't go at him like he went at Gobert.
Well, that's because... Yeah, the reason why I would say he doesn't is because when he's posting up Cat, he can't get near as close to the basket. Because Gobert is lurking right under the rim. And so when he's going to his post moves, he has to be aware of where Gobert is, because Gobert can roam freely and get to his shoulder as soon as like he's going up with something. But when it's just Gobert on him, he can back him completely under the rim and then just shoot the ball. Like, which I don't know why the Wolves are doing this, switching to this game plan, which is like it's been well established for a long time now
that it doesn't work.
Yeah, Jokic can just do what he wants against it. But yeah, like what you're saying, Cat. It wasn't that Cat. It's just kind of like how the Sixers people were like, oh, it's a knock on Joel Embiid that PJ Tucker does a better job guarding Jokic than Embiid does. And it's like, no, he doesn't. He doesn't do a better job guarding Jokic. It's just that's a better scheme to use against Jokic because of where it frees Joel up to be defensively against him.
Yeah.
But
how is Rudy Gobert so bad at rebounding?
He's led the league in rebounding multiple years.
It just, no, I feel like he should be like Andre Drummond 9. It feels like he should be like Andre Drummond level insane always. That
really surprises me because Jokic only had 7 and he's usually deep into double figures. So I wonder where all the rebounds went in Game 5 if Gobert and Jokic both had single digit.
I might have the stat line wrong. It just feels like Gobert should just be like a cheat code for rebounds more than he is. Like he already is.
Yeah, he was stretched out of the paint a lot more in Game 5 because he's guarding Jokic.
I just watched multiple times Gobert under the rim, ideal rebounding positioning, and then he gets like bullied by just Christian Braun wanting it more. And I'm like,
yeah. Oh, he had 11.
Okay, so it was not 9. Maybe it was 9 when I last checked. I don't know. I'm just talking about as a general rule of thumb. I feel like he should, with just where he's always put defensively, he's just there. He should just have 20 always. That seems.
I would say in games that he is being used in that scheme, he does get a lot more rebounds. What did he average this season? Like 12 while being on the court, sharing the court with another center.
Yeah, I guess. It feels. It just honestly, it actually just made me more mad in games 4 and 5, where he'd be like prime rebounding position and then look like he just didn't want to get it.
Oh,
He just would just be kind of like, and I get up like Aaron Gordon's boxing him out. That's not an easy rebound to just go get. But like, it was literally like Jamal Murray out hustling Rudy Gobert. And the amount of hustle required for Jamal Murray to get a rebound in the paint is a large amount. To be able to go up and get it when Rudy Gobert doesn't need to jump. He can just
I mean,
grab it.
Jamal is a really good rebounding point guard, but yeah, I would say that Gobert is it should be Gobert's rebound to lose for sure.
You can have a fast minivan, but you still should lose to a sports car in a race.
Yeah. I guess the rebounding distribution was very even. It looks like, because I guess AG had 10, Jokić had 7, Porter had 7, KCP had 5, which is a lot. Murray only had 1, which is surprising. Justin Holiday had 3, and then Christian Braun had 5. Which he's also a really good rebounder for.
Also, big fan of Holiday. The more and more I watch him in the playoffs, the more and more I'm like, I want you to wear green. Stop being a Nugget.
Really?
Oh, I love watching. Just because of, not because it works personnel wise, but just what he does.
Yeah, like, he's like the definition of a role player, and like he wants to maximize that as best he can. You know,
and he just is like Cat was backing him down, and he just took it. And then when he felt like this is the time to take the offensive charge, he does. No call, no emotion. Just like, and then gets up and goes. It just was.
I've literally never seen him like this whole season. I've only had one season of him being on my team, but I've never seen him get like flustered. Like he's always just like like what you kind of said about Aaron Gordon last episode. Like Justin Holiday is like even more of that, of just like the even keeled, like in game 2, the game that we completely just lost and, crapped the bed in. Justin Holiday was one of the few guys who had a good game that game. He had like 16 points, and none of the stars other than Jokić went out to face the press after the game. Like Murray just left, and like who got sent out there to talk was Jokić and Justin Holiday. But like Justin Holiday, he had a really good press conference. And I think that was also a big part of like the transition between games 2 and game 3. Like he was like, I know, like, I also just really like how he kept saying they, because he doesn't count himself as a champion because he wasn't there, obviously. But like, he was like, I know they know how to win a title. They just did it. And, he just kept kind of.
Also, think how cool the storyline would be to get the Holiday brothers back together.
Oh, yeah. Have they played with each other before? Drew and Justin?
I know that Drew and Aaron have.
Justin and Aaron have. On the Pacers, yeah. But, I'm not sure if Drew and Justin have. They might have, maybe on like the Sixers or the Pelicans.
It would have had to be early Sixers. Well, obviously, if Drew was there, it would have had to been early. But
yeah. It definitely was a while ago if it did happen.
I do think an hour 15 is probably solid on Nuggets T-Wolves.
Yeah, I think we're good on that, to be quite honest.
I already went on a bit of my rant about what I wanted to talk about with the Celtics. So they won in 5, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah, you're on pace to go 16-4. Just like the Nuggets did last year.
I feel like most teams would take that.
Yeah, it's one of the best performances of the past 20-something years.
They also were able to beat when Donovan Mitchell was healthy and playing the Cavs twice. So it's not like they had to. It wasn't like the Heat where there was never the best. Like Donovan Mitchell was there and didn't get hurt until in that game. So
game 3,
I believe. So yeah, anyway, they won it in 5. Can't complain. Al Horford had a great night tonight. Shout out to him. That was fun. It was fun to watch. Kind of turned back the clock. Finally started hitting threes because he's in a chart. Oh! I told you, right. This is what I want to talk about.
Yeah,
the Celtics guards always get this, like, we've always got this big, it was Marcus Smart, now it's Drew Holiday, this, like, guard that you can throw in the paint on, like, a possession every once in a while, and they, like, don't get moved, and it's kind of weird to watch. Just body-wise, you're like, this doesn't make sense. But then they're just sturdy dudes. I believe the more impressive feat is the inverse. Al Horford being able to be put on an island with Darius Garland, and it's like 50-50 on...
Wow.
No,
I haven't seen clips of this yet, but like that sounds, yeah.
No, and I don't think it's just this. Like, I've seen this before where you get Al Horford, and it's the Celtics are the most switchable team. That's like the thing. Mm-hmm. But you get Al Horford stuck out on an island.
At 37 years old.
At 30, his late 30s, mid to late 30s, because I'm going back a couple years. But while he's wearing a Celtics jersey, we're going to pretend that the rest of the things didn't happen.
In between,
It didn't feel right, and he didn't look right. And anyway, you get him out with almost anybody, and I'm like not super worried. I'm like, yeah, this is a good look for them, but it's not like, well, this is a wrap. It's not like you get Jamal Murray on Yusuf Nurkic level of terror. I'm just like, I mean, they got the switch they wanted, but I don't know if it's that beneficial for them.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Because I just feel like the inverse always gets talked about the guards doing center forward paint things, but Al Horford being able to go out there and not be lost, I just appreciate. And I texted you this, and as we get into the more like intense, high intensity parts of the season, and the stakes go up, and things might go bad, this Celtics team will forever have like a little part of my heart. They're just so... I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like a piece where you're just like everything makes you smile. Yeah, there'll be things that irritate me, but like just the vibes that they all kind of have. Like it might be Al's last ride depending on how things go at the end of the season.
Yeah,
like KP and like it feels like Jalen Brown last year was like kind of being pushed to like the outside of the core, like in terms of. Not on the court, but like I was like, it's keep leaving, we're trading, blah blah. And then KP comes, and then you like bring everybody just this one big like hug, and then like Luke Cornett's the weirdest person I've ever seen, but everybody just like loves him. Like they're up by 25, he's shooting free throws, he hits it, and then he does like a Tiger Woods fist bump, and you're just like, why? I don't know. I just was thinking about that watching. Oh, I remember what I was watching. It was game 3 or 4, and I watched Jason Tatum switch and cover every single Cavalier on one possession. And I'm just like, I love watching this.
Yeah.
That's wild. It was definitely game 3 because Donovan Mitchell was one of the people. But it just was like, switch. But it was like, switching as in like everybody also had to be able to switch with him. Yeah. Because Jason Tatum's probably our most switchable. He's
Which is saying a lot. That like this team is there's not a team even close, even though the Wolves are a great defensive team, the Magic, great defensive team.
Yeah.
The Celtics are just so malleable and switchable, it's ridiculous.
But anyway, I don't want to keep like
sorry to kill your momentum.
No, it's fine. There was no momentum. I was in my feels about this team before things were even over. Maybe that's a bad thing. That I was like, man, I just love this team. And the fact that we mostly have it back again, I love. Like, next there's season. Not a whole lot of questions about next season. Everyone, should be back.
Horford is Brown, the question. Is that?
Yeah, and that'll be because if we win, I think he
retires.
Rightfully so, rides out on a high. But we found Baby Al with Xavier Tillman. Not to the same level, but like...
Yeah.
It's just so perfect.
Yeah, so similar size, similar skill set at Al's, extended old age.
But... And Tillman, I would think that like if fostered in the system is able to like maybe improve, I think that would be a fair... Because he's not that old. He's like 26, maybe. Something like that.
I think even younger than that, honestly. Like, he's younger than you would think.
Because he has that, like kind of balding. type of
Yeah,
look
he's
to him.
he's a little bit. He's only a month older than you, month and a half older than you.
That's wild because he's an accomplished NBA player.
He's
But
25.
that's crazy.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. The Celtics handle the Cavs. If you have any other purview, you just don't know ball at all.
Mhm.
The Cavs had a great shooting night, and Donovan Mitchell was an all-star like he is, and it happens. And I think that because of when you make the lists, the West has so many more teams in the top 10, but I don't think that the gap between Cleveland and the Clippers is as giant as everybody says it is, or is acting like it is. You know what I mean? Do you think it's a giant gap?
I feel like that's a pretty sizable gap in my mind, but I'm not sure.
Oh, really?
I guess. I'm not 100% confident.
Obviously, not healthy Cavaliers is a giant gap, but
yeah.
I'm just on.
It's hard to gauge with the Knicks and Cavs because they're both so banged up. But
yeah, I'm also just very on a crusade against the national media narratives of the only reason the Celtics won as many games as they did is because they're in the East. And I'm like, they had a better win percentage in their 30 games against the West than they did against the East.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny. I was about to agree with you that no matter what conference they were in, they were going to have the most wins this regular season for sure. But I was about to say that maybe it's a little bit more because they're in the East, but if they won actually more games against the West, or a higher percentage.
23-7 against the West, and that means they had 11 and 41 against the East.
11 and 41?
Because they played 52 games against the East and 30 against the West, I think.
They won
41 and 11. Sorry, I said it back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously they didn't go 11 and 41 and 11.
I was very confused for a second. But and then obviously I should have been able to flip that in my mind, but
no, I shouldn't have said it wrong. So anyway, my Celtics are good at basketball, and if you think that they are if you don't think that the finals, no matter who comes out of the West, is at least going to be a 5 to 6 game series, and you think the Celtics get swept, never talk to me.
Oh, I'm not predicting
this is
that
a real thing. This is a real belief. I wasn't talking to you because I think that honestly, where the Celtics are probably somewhere between what you think they are and what I think they are. That's probably fair. Where they actually are.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty safe rule of thumb, honestly.
For most things, actually.
Yeah, it is one of the logical fallacies. There is a logical fallacy about that's named after that, or
Oh, is that the rule?
It's called a middle ground fallacy or something like that. But more often than not, I think that is a pretty good rule.
That neither of us are. Well, sometimes we're crazy off, but most of the time, neither of us are crazy off. It's probably just somewhere in the middle of the two. Anyway, I'll stop talking about the Celtics. Dante DiVincenzo telling the Pacers that they are a bunch of Mexican OTs or Drakes, just fake thugs. So, I don't know why Mexican OT got that straight.
I don't remember him saying that, but
I don't know why he kind of fake.
He said fake thugs though.
Yeah, something along those lines. Or acting tough, but you're not.
Something like that.
I should have just said Drake. I didn't. I honestly want to re-say that and have you cut it out a little bit. We just have had this conversation before that he doesn't quite feel
He feels like somebody we went to high school with, almost.
Mexican OT?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I know exactly who too. Also, but Drake. Yeah, anyway, it doesn't matter. I love Dante DiVincenzo's just anger, kind of. He's just
he's a spicy Italian man.
Yeah, he just gets fired up. I feel like the Knicks are the team of the people. People just kind of enjoy watching this nitty gritty. They're 6 foot guy, just really just can find the buckets when he needs them, but only when he needs them. But he finds all of them when he needs them. And then Hartenstein is just just that gritty guy. Celtics in 4, but I just think that it's just an interesting. They're just a fun team to watch.
What if Anunoby's back? Do you think that changes your prediction at all?
5 or 5.
Because
I'll give him 6 because Madison Square Garden will be
popping. Yeah, for sure.
Like to the Boston comes to town, Eastern Conference Finals, popping. Yeah. But also, the Knicks are probably like, well, this is the worst possible matchup we could have gotten because
there's not a person Brunson can switch on to get a favorable like
Peyton Pritchard when he's in.
Okay, that's true. But if I'm Missoula, I stagger that as much as I can.
And you also, and maybe this is weird confidence, Peyton Pritchard has that same little like bulldog thing that DiVincenzo has sometimes.
Yeah.
And I feel like he'd be like, give it to me. Give it to me.
What we've seen, it seems like at least with Jalen Brunson, is anybody who's like a small guard, even though he's a very small guard himself, he dominates.
Well, also, I think that the Zebras assist him in domination against those people. He is able to offensive foul the heck out of people, and not a single whistle was to be heard in all of Manhattan. And it's unfortunate.
But he can back them down quite easily as well, especially if they're skinnier.
He is booty ball reincarnated. Or not even he just is that.
For sure.
And I'm
TJ McConnell's the only short king that I feel like has done a good job guarding.
And they've been so mean to each other, and I love it. No, only on the court though. Off the court, they're like, all the respect in the world. I mean, he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
But then on the court, it's like, are they gonna fight?
McConnell is feisty also. Throwing him and DiVincenzo had some nice back and forths.
And then Miles Turner, like, he did the thing where you step forward, but then nobody holds you back, but you stop like somebody did.
Yeah, for sure. I know what you're talking about.
The Thonis special is the best way to describe it.
Thanasis,
Giannis is his brother's name. Thanasis.
Thanasis,
My dinner is here. The Knicks are just grit and grind, and I enjoy it heavily.
Yeah, for sure. And I love also all the old Knicks being in the building. And so like active, like John Starks and Stephon Marbury, Patrick Ewing,
another thing,
Melo.
That's exactly. People are saying keep what's the hashtag I saw? It was one random account. It was keep Melo's 15 out of my rafters because Carmelo has not been at like Nuggets games in support this season.
Yeah. Well, he never has.
And he probably won't.
Unless some bridges are mended between him and
that
goes both ways. I'm not most people just are mad at Carmelo for that. I think ownership, Josh Kroenke, all those guys need to do a better job because Josh Kroenke became the acting owner making decisions the same year that the Melo trade happened. So he was, he's definitely the guy to mend things with him. And he needs to be able to reach out and say like, hey, come to a game. Like, I know that you get booed every time you come back here, but the only way to like mend that thing is like to start showing up and support and, and start making this relationship a little bit better and brighter.
No, here's what you do. Next year, you have Jokić like address the crowd and then Jokić brings him out. Because if anybody can get the ball arena to stop booing, it's Nikola Jokić.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like that's the way to do it. Hopefully that loyal listener Michael Malone sends that up the flagpole and we get this whole thing fixed. I just saw that and I thought of it because Melo.
I don't know but he was at the Knicks game. I don't know if that would fix it or I don't know if that would happen if Malone even sent that up to Josh Kroenke because Kroenke was like in the interview recently that he did on Michael Porter Jr.'s podcast. I was talking about the jersey retirement, saying that giving the jersey to Jokić, jersey number 15 after Melo left. He said that he didn't even think about it, that there was no thought. It was like, there's no way. You did not just accidentally give the jersey number 15 out to somebody after, like immediately after.
Because we've talked about this, that there was another guy. Like
Anthony
it wasn't
Randolph got it before him.
It wasn't even Jokić. There was a gap.
Yeah, but it's like it's not like you just gave that no thought at all. There was some pettiness there, and just to at this point, this many years later, not being able to just admit that and talk honestly about that makes me think that he must also not,
What?
extend outward to Carmelo very well. And that's also why we get so many quotes still from Melo being kind of feisty and petty about the Nuggets, and which makes everybody even more mad.
If you don't follow George Karl on Twitter, go do that right now.
Yeah.
It's
best
hilarious.
Former coach.
Did you see him bullying that random fan that says, couldn't be me not putting Gary Payton on MJ? And he's like, well, when you were learning how to walk, I had to figure out how to guard the GOAT without having one of my best offensive pieces, and I needed to use... Anyway, he goes down in like this theoretical, like, sit down, child. This is why I couldn't just do that. It was awesome. Very George Karl thing to do. Especially on Twitter. Like he's like posting on a Facebook post. Anyway, we've kind of gone off the rabbit. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I guess sticking with the Knicks a little bit more, that series. Tyrese Halliburton, he looked really just not good in Game 5. And Jalen Brunson looked the opposite of that. He looked very, very good, even though he's hobbled. For some reason, they were guarding him with Andrew Nembhard that entire time. For some reason, weren't using Nesmith near as much when Nesmith has definitely done the best job on him this series.
The only games that have been like hard definitive was Nesmith, which I just...
And McConnell's done a pretty good job, honestly, for that size disadvantage.
He just gets in foul trouble.
Mm-hmm. And Nembhard is not a bad defender in a vacuum. It's just it's a bad matchup for him. And I don't know why they just kept going to that. It was just kind of a weird decision to stick with. And then the Knicks, it's just like kind of making it, they're bailing the Knicks out in a way, it feels like, for them being too hobbled at this point to continue, just theoretically.
Also, they're going to run into a wall at some point.
I've heard, though, that OGs might be close to coming back for...
No, I'm saying that, like, OG coming back is not going to make up for, like, the miles put on Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo.
Yeah.
Like, and especially, like, looking at a Knicks fan's perspective, you win this series, you hope you can knock it out tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to go play on Monday?
Is that when they would play next?
Because the Celtics, actually, since the Celtics close it out, it might be earlier than... It won't be much earlier than Monday. Because they don't let them get too offset.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you get a little bit of a break, but then, like, you got to go with a team that's just better than you in Boston. Mm-hmm. And let's say you get through them. There's just going to be a point where, like, they're going to...
Their title hopes are definitely... There's feels like they probably won't reach it, but it's... Even to make the Eastern Conference Finals for the New York Knicks is huge.
It's huge. That's
huge. Those Knicks fans will relish. This is a franchise or a fan base that has relished the second round playoff appearance that Melo gave them, in New York. They've relished that for as long as they could.
It's like almost worse than the 2008 Celtics in the title, where they just milk it.
Like Carmelo is kind of the opposite of the way the Nuggets view Carmelo, or like it's a generational thing. There's a bridge between, there's some Nuggets fans, there's a pretty big group of Nuggets fans that I fall into that are like the generation that grew up with Melo as a Nugget. And so we all love, Melo still for the most part, but that most Nuggets fans, especially the older ones, absolutely despise him. And then with the Knicks though, sorry to keep going back to the Nuggets on accident. With the Knicks, the Carmelo is like, he is put on this pedestal that is much higher than what he actually achieved. Yeah, there in New York City. It was the best. It was the glory days of that Knicks franchise.
I also wonder, like, he's the only superstar that's chosen the Knicks in a long time.
That's probably a big part of it.
Because a lot of other superstars are like and they always end up no. He's the only one that was actually there.
And I think it also made it super, like, an even bigger connection thing with that, he's one of his homes growing up was New York City. He lived there for multiple years in his childhood. He's mostly
a DMV guy, isn't he?
Yeah, Baltimore is, I think, his hometown is what he would consider. But New York and Puerto Rico, I think those are the three places he kind of toggled between, and then
Calls
in high school, because Oak Hill is in like Florida, right, or
California, I think,
or California. Really, I thought it was East Coast, but maybe not. Because then, in high school he was at Oak Hill, so he kind of bounced around. But yeah, the Knicks having Brunson right now, I think is kind of established himself as
Virginia. Oak Hill's in Virginia.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so pretty close to Baltimore. But yeah, Jalen Brunson has definitely solidified himself on like the Knicks pantheon. With this playoff performance, this playoff run, he has 5, I believe, at time of recording.
40-point games.
He has 5 40-point games in this postseason alone, which is not been done very many times. Bernard King is the only other Knick to do it, and also I think there's an interesting parallel that happened in the 1984 season. That postseason, the Bernard King.
Oh, it's gonna keep going. It's not just like, it's exactly 40 years ago. The team that they're going to run into is also going to be
the Celtics.
The Celtics.
And they put up a pretty big fight against the eventual champs, the 84 Celtics. I heard somebody saying that this Celtics team is not as good as the 84 Celtics, so you could imagine that maybe the Knicks, and I was like, that's a stupid point, but
that's like a wild thing to, like, it's maybe not wrong, but like, it's also like, how does that matter?
Yeah, exactly.
Because the Knicks are, I don't know.
Not a great team right now. Especially this banged up, which I'd like to, instead of just saying that they're banged up, like to at least note how they are. They have Mitchell Robinson, who used to be their starting center. He is now out. And I mean, he became the backup center before he got injured, but
it's still it would be a playoff rotational piece.
A big one.
10 times out of 10.
Yeah. And then Bojan Bogdanovic, who was just starting to get integrated into Thibodeau's rotation, or into Thibodeau's rotation, finally, as a spark plug scorer off the bench. And I'm kind of moving from the bottom up right now, because the next one is OG Anunoby, being the largest plus minus leader in the NBA this season ever since he got to the Knicks. And so he's out for the last couple games now, and going to be out for the rest of this series at least. There's hopes of him coming back for the Celtics, and then Julius Randle, who they have not had since like the midway point of the regular season. So, that's was their second best player. I think that was established that he was the second best player some time ago.
The third for sure,
behind OG. You're saying? Yeah,
he would definitely, without like seeing it on the court and how the flow goes, he would, no matter what, in my brain, move below OG.
I could see that maybe. It depends on what you're prioritizing, I guess, because he'd definitely be more of like the second option offensively. But the what I was about to say though is there was a good amount of people who before, like earlier this season, were viewing this team as Randall's team still, not Brunson's.
Oh.
Yeah, I disagree with all of them.
Didn't we have an episode before the season started that Jalen Brunson might be like a top 10 guard in the NBA?
That was in the playoffs last year. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we are on the same page on this. I've seen some people talking about. There's some people who are pretty high on Randle.
That's weird to me. That feels like the last guy I'd be high on.
Yeah,
for unwarranted reasons. I don't know.
No, for sure.
It's whatever.
But yeah, so I guess that can do it with this series. It's a fun throwback, rivalry. The Knicks Pacers back to the 90s. They've milked that
Reggie
for sure.
Miller and
which I find it insane that they haven't had more games.
Did I just say Reggie Miller? I'm a crazy person.
I heard Reggie Miller, I thought.
Okay.
Maybe I just assumed.
Alan Jackson is playing in my ears, and it messed with my head.
Yeah. But no, Reggie Miller, like, I feel like that was just the no-brainer, like, to put him on the call for the Knicks Pacers games, but they only did that once, I'm pretty sure, so far.
That is weird that you would, yeah.
He's been in the...
I also don't know if it's because Josh Hart cursed at him on national television, if that might have had something to do with, like, maybe we should not do that if the Knicks are just going to go, like, talk crap to Reggie Miller while he has a live mic on.
Yeah,
maybe we should avoid that.
That was wild. Yeah, Josh Hart is wild for that. But no, but Reggie Miller, yeah, he's been on the Nuggets Wolves calls for almost all of those games. Pretty sure.
Also, Jamal Crawford's been improving dramatically as the playoffs have continued.
Yeah, I was about to say that not say that exact thing, but I was about to say that I've liked Jamal Crawford on the calls.
Because he was like he was less than great, I think, when he was talking during Jamal's first buzzer beater against the Lakers. I was like, that's not great.
That was Reggie Miller.
It was Reggie Miller. You're right.
Yeah, I think this
definitely was.
The second round is when Jamal started go. I don't know why they just changed it up in the second round, but that's when Jamal joined the team, to my memory at least. And I remember the first game they were doing together had Jamal and Reggie Miller. Their voices sound so similar to me. Now it's definitely starting to separate in my mind, but the first game I was like, I can't tell who's talking. But I think that's fun. Also it's fun that Reggie and like Reggie Jackson and Reggie Miller have the same first name, and then Jamal Murray and while they were talking about the Nuggets, is funny to because like I called a lot of the Nuggets by their first name only, on a first name basis. But yeah, so I guess to finish off this episode, just touch on really quick the Mavs Thunder series, which is tied at 2-2 right now.
Mavericks are up by about 10 at half. Okay.
Yeah. And is Luka looking, at least in the box score, like Luka again, or is he still...
He doesn't look like a bum. He has 17 points, 7 for 11, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists.
So very, very good.
Very, very Luka-esque.
Yeah, which we have not seen this series.
Dallas Mavericks MVP PJ Washington, unfortunately, has got a big old goose egg in points.
Wow, yeah, he does.
Also, I had this thought. Trade deadline. PJ Washington ends up a member of the Oklahoma City Thunder instead of being on the Mavericks. I feel like that's crazy different. That, like, bumps the Thunder up. Like, Josh Giddey is just boom. It's PJ Washington instead. I feel like that's like they're one step away. That's what they needed to do.
I could see that. Also, I feel like the Mavs might not even be here if that was the case.
Yes, I agree. I just was saying strictly as what would be like a theoretical like that would have been perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, most people try to fill in the Josh Giddey spot with another guard like the Cason Wallace. I think has kind of been the one that's solidified as that's the best lineup for them right now.
Yeah.
And the second best lineup, the second best option for that spot is still not Josh Giddey. It is Isaiah Joe, to be honest. Like those are the best two options they have to close out games. Obviously Isaiah Joe for the shooting, and Cason Wallace for the completely take Kyrie out of a game ability.
He just doesn't look like he'd be... He kind of has that same quality about him, how physically he doesn't scare you, but then when he starts playing defense, you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
They can't breathe. They can't get anywhere.
He's so, he has such long arms.
Long, active arms. It's a blur.
Uh-huh. He's very sturdy for he's a 6'3" guard, but he looks bigger than that. You know what I mean?
No, he's got a football body for sure.
Yeah. Like he's kind of like a Marcus Smart-esque build, but even longer arms, which I guess Marcus Smart, I don't think his wingspan is insane, is it?
It's a pretty, I don't know the exact, but it's pretty size. It's a pretty solid wingspan.
Yeah. But this Thunder team has just wingspan.
Yeah, he's 6'9" wingspan at 6'3".
6'3". Yeah, okay, that's pretty insane. What is Wallace's? It's probably around the same, out. Maybe a little bit more. I couldn't imagine it's that much more though.
8.5 foot wingspan.
Wow. So, by the eye, I would say that Wallace has much longer arms, but I guess
that's what makes Marcus Smart so sneaky.
Yeah.
But then when I spell Wallace correctly, it says he has a wingspan of 6'6". Okay, no. NBA draft is 6'8.5", so it is 6'8.5".
Yeah, that's what I find. Also, but yeah, the Thunder just have lots of guys like that, and so I thought that honestly after Game 4, like you said, you texted me that that was like the worst way for the Mavs for the
Mavericks
Thunder to lose,
let the Thunder win.
Yeah, for the Thunder to win. And I agreed with that. Like the energy that gave this Thunder squad, or you would think that it could give this Thunder squad that's pretty well equipped to defend this the star duo of the Mavericks. But yeah, this is a big game in response in Game 5 in the first half, at least
from Luka specifically,
who has been very hobbled, not looking like himself the past several games now, all of the games of this series. So that's huge, honestly, for the Mavericks. And it looks like Giddey did not start in this game, which is the first time that's happened. Right?
Yeah, Giddey only played like 8 minutes in the first half of the last game, and then
but he started the last game though. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, but it seems like Daigneault has realized that is not what he needs to do to try to win basketball games.
Yeah, it looks like Isaiah Joe got the starting nod tonight, which it's just a weird situation for Josh Giddey to be in when he was looked at as one of the bright young stars on this team like a year ago, not even. But yeah, that's going to be a fun trade, candidate to discuss this upcoming offseason. But yeah, so I don't have too much, I guess, more on this Mavericks Thunder series other than I feel like, before this game started, I thought I was leaning Thunder. Now, if we can see Luka actually producing like this, I lean much more Mavs. Like a lot more Mavs. But yeah, so I guess that we'll see where that one takes us. Have not been near as tuned in to that one as I have been, obviously, with the Nuggets. That's kind of been that's why we spent, over an hour of this episode on that one. But yeah, so I guess that is where the playoffs can wrap up for us. And the last thing we'll touch on here is one award that has been given out from this regular season, and that is the Coach of the Year award given to Mark Daigneault, actually. And looking at how the voting broke down, I actually am very surprised with how much of like a shellacking this voting was, with Daigneault taking home 89 of the 100, I assume.
Yep, 100 first place votes.
Yeah, or 99, I guess.
Oh,
yeah.
I think it's because they got the 1 seed. I think that's what I think he won regardless. But I think them getting the 1 seed is probably what, like, if people had a coin flip in their head, started to lean Daigneault as opposed to the Mosleys of the world or the
Finches.
Who got third? Finch.
Mm-hmm. Joe Mazzulla got fourth. Chris Finch got third. Yeah. Joe Mazzulla got fourth.
Which I think is... I don't need to go on another Celtics rant. I think that's fair and fine.
What direction were you going to go with that?
Everyone calls the Celtics this like little Celtics thing a super team. It is the least decorated super team ever.
The Jason Tatum post-game interview?
Yes.
Are you just riding for your guy? You're just agreeing?
No, it's because I've been boiling of irritation with like national media.
I feel like that was dumb though to say that after that game. I don't know. I felt like that was a...
Did you hear the question?
I guess I don't know.
No, the question deserved his response.
Okay. I just know that, it was a game, it was after a loss, correct?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. It was after the Cavs loss?
Game 2. I think so.
And he said that we're not a super team because the voters have told us that we don't have an MVP, we don't have Coach of the Year, blah, blah, blah.
No, and he didn't just say we didn't have votes for MVP.
For first place.
I don't know.
Wait, what do you mean?
We didn't have I think he's a finalist. We didn't have a finalist for MVP.
Yeah, top 3. Which was deserved.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I just get mad that the Celtics players are being punished for Brad Stevens being better than everyone else.
Wait, so how is it not? If you're saying that it's so, are you saying it's a super team or are you not?
It definitely is.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying that I would like consistency from the national media. If we don't have a guy, stop blaming Jason Tatum for not being good enough. I just am angry at everyone.
I personally, I don't love the term
the co-host
super team.
on the radio show watches Colin Cowherd, which is not a good barometer, but he's a Celtics hater and it makes me mad. Yeah. Every day during work, I have to look up and I have to see Colin Cowherd spitting anger and resentment at my Boston Celtics.
Yeah, for me personally, for me to consider a team a super team, in my mind, that's like a team that there was some, like an All-NBA, a current All-NBA guy who basically either forced to trade or signed in the offseason to that team, joining another current, at least one other current, All-NBA guy, Well,
he didn't force his way, but we kind of sort of did that with Drew Holiday. Kind of.
What? No, yeah, I would. That's why I'm saying I would not consider Boston, in my definition of a super team, a super team. How did that happen with Drew Holiday? Also, I don't consider him a current All-NBA guy because he.
That's true. Current is so the Bucks are more of a super team than the Celtics.
By your definition. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. After the Dame trade, the Bucks are like much more of a thrown together. Getting superstar who was a superstar just now on a different team, but putting him on this one to join this other superstar.
So, all the super teams are dead.
Yeah, they keep losing.
It's a bunch of homegrown.
Exactly. I would say the Celtics are much more homegrown than they are super team thrown together.
We were way more homegrown even just last year, but it's okay.
Yeah, more so last year. But this one has been more like on the margin trade. Not on the margin, but like pretty... They're trades that weren't like forced by a player, and
they just happened.
It was like a basketball makes sense tactically, not like a narrative or like an agenda driven thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll
talk more about. Sorry,
I was just gonna say like the super teams of the past, like Brooklyn, like
the Beatles,
the Heat. Yeah, the Heatles. The Golden State Warriors with KD, the Death lineup. All those guys, the Suns, the current Suns right now. Super team
trend
that got swept in the first round. Yeah, Kevin Durant has made more than his fair share, for sure, of super teams.
But we'll talk about that more with Executive of the Year, probably.
Yeah,
just kidding. Executive of the Year. We could do that now.
Yeah, because already
honestly,
kind of talked about
there's no more reason to jump into it than Brad Stevens won it, and he should have.
For sure. I don't even know what the voting was on that, but definitely was well deserved from the man in the front office there.
It was almost unanimous, but Sam Presti got a vote or two. Let me check the results. Oh, Sam Presti got 4 votes and Tim Conley got 4 votes. There was way less voters in the Executive of the Year.
Okay.
Because Brad Stevens got 16 first place votes, 6 second place votes, and 3 third place votes. Next closest was Sam Presti, who got 4 first, 7 seconds, and 6 thirds. Then Tim Conley, then Leon Rose of the Knicks. And then it goes down to just kind of throwing darts at a dartboard. Nico Harrison of Dallas, Raphael Stone of Houston, Jeff Weltman of Orlando, and then Calvin Booth of Denver, who I would argue... Actually, that's fine. Like, they're good, but also he didn't build much of this, really.
KCP, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Reggie Jackson.
Was KCP under him and not Conley?
Mm-hmm. Okay, that was the first. Well, actually, no. The first move he made was signing DeAndre Jordan, which put a bad start, for a lot of people.
Everyone was like, what is that? What have we done?
Then the second move he made was trading Will Barton and Monte Morris for KCP and Ish Smith, which most people, the vast majority of people, were very on board with. And then Bruce Brown. He signed Bruce Brown. He drafted Christian Brown and then drafted Justin Holiday was the move he made. Like a lot of players that are really important to this team right now were I've really liked Calvin Booth as for his moves so far. For sure, especially in the draft. So I don't mind him being there at all. Dallas, though, was like interesting because the Kyrie trade was, I mean, looking back on it now, it's worked out, but I don't think that was like a out of the park home run move at all, to be quite honest. But yeah, I like all the other ones though, for sure. But yeah, so that can be it for today's episode. But yeah, so just to plug some of the stuff, again, want to plug the mailbag, sign up for that so we can, have some discussion to go off of for some questions that you guys send in. It can be related to anything at all. It doesn't have to be just basketball specific, as you've probably started to pick up on if you've followed our show in the past. But I guess other than that, though, follow the feed on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this. Subscribe, do all that stuff. Go to the Patreon, sign up for that if you have the kindness in your heart to do so. Or if you would rather do a one-time donation, do that at buymeacoffee.com/hooptheory. The links of all these things should be found in the episode description as well as the show description wherever you are listening or watching this. And lastly, I would like to just say that we are very thankful for everybody listening and watching, whatever you're doing. Please stay happy, stay healthy, and we will talk to you guys next episode.
Peace!